really appreciate being asked to be here, and I do love y'all. And Shanda she's like my daughter, and it's just a gift. The relationships that I never knew that I wanted. That I was one of those people before I ever came in here that couldn't get along with women and didn't have anything. I never thought about having those types of, like, that I would even want that. So it's wonderful, the promises that unfold that I didn't even know I was missing and wanting in my life. My name is Mary Wood. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is July 1st, 1998, and my home group is the Came to Believe group in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. We meet 2 nights a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. We're mostly closed meeting for alcoholics or people with a problem, desire to stop drinking. And we have on Tuesday nights, we have a big book study. 3 nights. The first 3 nights we studied the tradition out of the 12 and 12 that corresponds with the number of the month on the 4th, and we study AA history when we have a 5th Tuesday. On Fridays we study AA literature in general, any AA book, and is good for a topic. And then on the last Friday of the month, as some of you do know, we have our open speaker meeting, and we're always at 7 o'clock, 7 to 8 meeting. So we would love to see you out there and appreciate the support we have, enjoyed from y'all. It's amazing how tight-knit, some people really dive into AA and make it family. So I was prayed up. I'm a little bit nervous. And that's okay, because AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, it was a place where I learned to experience the gamut, all the good and all the hard stuff too, and walk through and find out that I'm still alive. It's okay. I can feel stuff today. I feel things big. My husband will tell you, he's, besides the Lord and his bottle for my tears, Paige probably has one of his own. I started tearing up when we were reading the traditions. He read, "For our group purpose, there's but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself, and our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern." And I didn't have a loving God until I came here. I had grown up churched. I grew up in a super nice family. You'll hear, if you stick around with enough AA speaker meetings, you'll hear every story from Skid Row to, Park Avenue. I was somewhere in the middle, and I grew up privileged with my mother was a housewife. I like to say that Donna Reed wished she could have been my mother. Some of you might not know who Donna Reed is nowadays, but it's a wonderful life, that cute girl. And anyway, my mom had casseroles and salads and sides for us, and drove me to ballet lessons and then tap jazz lessons, and my brother had horseback riding lessons, and we had family reunions in the mountains and the beach. And it was wonderful, and I had no reason to drink. And by the time I was 7 years old, I needed a drink worse than anybody there. And I'm adopted, and it's funny because when both my brother and I are adopted, and when they came out on the news, we were sitting at dinner with the TV on, and when it came out on the news that there was a genetic component to alcoholism, my mother said, "Wow, I guess it's a good thing we couldn't have kids." Well, they had bought and paid for 2 full-blown alcoholics sitting there. So but I said, you know what, I was alcoholic enough for all of us. Both my grandfathers that I grew up with were alcoholic. All my uncles were alcoholic. I think my father has got dementia these days from alcoholism. He's 91 years old. And sweetest guy ever. All the guys in my family are sweet. I've always loved alcoholics my whole life. And I guess so I was 13 when I took my first drink. And it wasn't because of anything bad. My first drink was just sort of a coincidence. I had gone to a cast party. Grew up Presbyterian church, and you'd have thought we were a bunch of Catholics, I guess, the way we drank. But they had a cast party after this little show that we did for the church, and there were 2 punch bowls. And apart from drinking too much, all of my growing up and everything, it was guys too, right? I've got to have a boyfriend. And so I'm 13 years old, and because I want somebody like me better than he likes everybody else. That's my thing. And so this little boy, he's 15 years old, and he either found or created a spiked punch bowl. And that's where all my drinks started coming from. I felt like Dorothy, who had just walked through the door and everything was in color. It was wonderful. I was doing cartwheels on whoever's front lawn it was, and I just felt like I had arrived because, from the time, like I said, 7 years old and needing a drink, at my 7th birthday party, I went missing, and my mom finally found me. I was in the closet, and she said, "What are you doing in here?" We had a basement full of little girls and birthday cake, and she said, What are you doing in here? What's wrong? And I said, "They were looking at me." And, it was just, life was too big and too much. And when I took that drink when I was 13, I didn't care if you were looking at me. It was fine. I wasn't prettier, I wasn't funnier, I wasn't more beautiful or anything like that. I just didn't care so much that I wasn't all that. And anyway, so at 15 years old, I'm a daily morning drinker. At 13, I became a daily thinker. I was thinking about that next drink. At 15, I'm making it happen because nobody's really inviting me to all those parties. That's not going to happen for me. I'm not that girl. I don't fit into any clique or anything like that. I'm not one of the pom-pom girls. I'm not smart, and I'm not a jock or anything like that. I'm just sort of a peripheral girl. So I got to make this happen for myself. And I figured it out. I'm not a morning person. In fact, I became a night shift RN, so much of a night person. I finally found my niche. I stay up all night long. I don't struggle with it at all. I struggle to sleep at night when I'm off work. But anyway, for booze, I can get up. And I wake up at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. My father, I cut my teeth on old granddad. He's got a jug under the sink. And I take a Coca-Cola bottle and pour that Coke out because you don't want to spoil the whiskey, right? And I pour the old granddad in. I steal a couple of my mom's cigarettes, and I'm ready to go to school. And I called it getting to normal. And so I walked to the school bus and drank out of my Coca-Cola bottle. And when my second period science teacher could smell the whiskey coming out my pores, and he was an ex-Green Beret and knew a little bit about drinking, he said, "Mary, is Miss Cage your sponsor or your counselor?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Will you take her this note?" And I said, "Yeah, because now I've got special privilege. While you're stuck in class, I get to walk in the halls." And the note says, "She's drunk, hold her." And so I carry my fate to this lady, and she reads the note. She says, "Have you been drinking?" And now I'm smart. I'm not one of the nerdy brain people, but I know things. She must know that I've been drinking. And I said, "Yeah, I did." And she said, "Well, I said, "Well, I had a beer," which smells nothing like, old granddad. So from the gate, I'm a liar. I'm afraid, and I'm certainly not going to go home and face that music because they never called. I never got, this is in the 80s, and was it the 80s? I think so. It was the early 80s, and I am certainly not going to go home to my mom. They did not call the police. They did not call no juvenile, nobody. They didn't call any psychiatrist or anybody. They just said, you're in trouble. And her name is Barbara. It's my mom. And so I'm not going home there and get any talk to from them. I'm not going to listen to them. I will not be scolded by them because they don't understand me. They don't love me. Now, all those casseroles would tell you differently. But I felt like, they don't understand me. I'm the black sheep. And she likes my brother, but she doesn't like me. And I told her that one time. She said, why do you think that? And I said, because you and I always fight. And you and Johnny never fight. And she laughed at me. She said, it takes two to fight. When I tell him to go clean his room, he says, okay, and then he doesn't do it. And then when I tell you to go clean your room, you tell me why you shouldn't have to clean your room, and make this whole case about how it's your own space. I could not just be in that house and take direction. I said, I'm not going back there. And I became a runaway for about 24 hours. And then everybody's afraid for me. And they're worried about me. Well, I like that. That's what I want you to be afraid and worried and, stroke my ego. Please come home. And so that's what happened. Nothing happened. I kept drinking and I kept getting pregnant. It's the short story. When I was 16, I got pregnant with my first child, and I did not want to. I wanted to have him, but I realized, so my mother didn't want me to stay home pregnant. I went to a maternity home in Texas, and talking things through with people who had a lot of experience with pregnant teenagers, I realized I didn't have what that person needed to be the mom I wanted to be for him, and I placed him for adoption. And that is good drinking material. I mean, I never felt more sorry for myself than I flew home without my child. And I've since reunited with him and met his mother, and I'm grateful for what she could do for him that I could not do for that boy. And I have no regret today. But for a long time, I just felt robbed. I couldn't see my part in that story. Where did the baby come from, Mary? I was not married, and I didn't work. I'm a high school student, and I just thought that I should be able to do what I want to do without any consequences. And certainly after I had him, I've had my lightning struck, I've had my bad luck, and it's not my turn now. So when I kept doing those same things that over and over, expecting different results, what happened? I got pregnant again, and in 1987, I had another little boy. I went back to that home, and they said, this intake psychiatrist or whatever he was says, I guess we didn't teach you anything. And he pierced my heart. I was so ashamed already of myself. And looking back on that years later in sobriety, I thought, you're right. You never taught me anything about alcoholism. Because I just wanted to fill this God-shaped hole in my heart. Having those kids and giving them up, I just, and all of the rest of the wreckage that I had at that point in my relationships, like with my parents, I just really felt like God didn't want me anymore. I can't take that chance that God doesn't want me. I don't want to. I probably qualify for hell, and I'm not going there, and I'm not going to worship anybody who would send me there, so bye. And I just totally gave up on the God idea. I I figured, if there is no God, then there are no consequences for my morality or lack of. And I felt like, peace for me, because I had felt somewhat suicidal since I started drinking when I was 13. I felt like one day I'm going to die and this is going to stop. All the committee in my head, all the itty bitty committee is going to stop, and that's going to be peace, and that's what I'm looking for. And so I was I was a hurricane, and I took my first hostage right out of college. We got married in 1990, and I'm the same person. There's nothing different about me whatsoever, but when I get pregnant this time, I'm married, and I'm married to somebody who's got a drive to work and earn. So that's the only reason I think I'm her mother. And she used to come with me. She and her little sister used to come with me to the AA meetings when they were 4 and 5 years old. But in the beginning, I just felt like, somebody's going to know that I have her, and they're going to come in and take her, because, I just didn't even feel qualified to be anybody. So her dad and I, we were drinking buddies. That was the whole premise of our marriage. And I needed a roommate. That's how he moved in that's how we did that. And it was, he was sort of a flatline guy, and I was sort of a roller coaster girl. And I thought he would even out my peaks, and that I would bump up his valleys, or, like give him a little bit of personality or something. It didn't work. And by 1997, I had really, they don't like it when you cheat on them. They really hate that. And we were maybe not going to make it, but hanging on by a thread. And we said, you know what? We got to get out of this town. We were in Wilson, North Carolina. We got to get out of this town. And he took a job as the town manager of Topsail. And we're going to move to the beach, lose weight, and fall in love. Nobody lost weight. Nobody fell in love. And I got there, and I'm on a barrier island in January, and with no friends. My parents aren't talking to me. He's not talking to me. And it's lonely. It's cold. And my girlfriend that I haven't seen in a couple of years, she's turning 40. I just turned 30. And she says, come to Myrtle Beach to my birthday party. We're having a girls' weekend. And so, yeah, and party means more. So I go to Myrtle Beach for the weekend. I leave our 2 girls with their dad, and I'm a good friend, so I bring a bottle. And then I get there early, and the other girl who got there early, she had a bottle I had never seen before with this kind of hook clasp thing on it. I said, I need one of those. And then my friend Teresa, her husband, had wine for the table. I've got 3 drinks going at once, and on and on. And one of the first miracles in terms of my alcoholism that I can remember was that night. Somebody said, because I'm falling down, they said, let me drive you, because we're leaving the restaurant and going to Teresa's. And I said, okay. And that was really a miracle for me, because I would never leave my car anywhere. Like today, that just sounds crazy, that I would value my car and my property over your life or your child's life. But it was a no-brainer for me. I would never leave my car in a strange parking lot. And I did that night. We went back there, and they started passing something around I'd never tried before. I said, this is great. And I thought, this is going to keep me from throwing up. It didn't. And so that night I lied about throwing up all over her new bathroom. And the next day, Saturday morning, I said, that was rough. I'm just going to drink normal now. And these poor girls, this little, sisterhood, they look like deer in the headlight. They said, yes, Mary, drink normal. And of course you understand what I meant. I meant my normal. So what is that, a 6-pack or a bottle of wine? I don't know what it is, but just easy does it, right? And so Saturday, I don't remember. And then Sunday morning, I don't want them to know that I'm a drunk driver. I don't want them to know. And I start crying. And I haven't seen my alcoholism in years. The first time I said I was alcoholic, I think, was when I was 16. I told my best friend, Lisa Vernon, we were standing at, high schools used to have smoking section, and we would hang out at the smoking section. I said, you know what, I think I'm alcoholic. And I figured I had just drawn the short straw, because I intuitively knew it was something I couldn't fix, and it's just not going to be good for me. I'm just not going to have one of those nice lives that some of these other people have. And then for years, I just sort of brushed that under the rug because, everybody's got something that they're doing to get through life, and this is just my something. Somebody else plays too much golf. Oh, I never had that problem. Somebody else works too hard. I didn't have that one either. But I drink like a fish. And so I didn't sweep it under the rug that morning. And I started crying. I knew that I was tied to that bottle. And so I left those girls. I was in the car right before I took off, 90-mile ride back to where my family was. And I said, if there's no beer in the fridge when I get home, I'll stop. I mean, I was pretty confident, right? There's gonna be at least one, right? And I drive 90 miles. I don't remember that. And I get back to the house. And it's not like, how are the kids or how are you? I go to the fridge and I open it up and there's no beer in the fridge. And I turned to him and I said, you don't know what you just did to me. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. But every time that I got pregnant, I would quit drinking for that pregnancy. That's how I remembered it until after a long while in sobriety. That's, how they say more will be revealed. Then I remember when somebody snuck a bottle into the maternity home while I'm in labor with my oldest son. And I thought, oh my God, thank you, bring that over here. And all the near beers that, I didn't realize were booze. They're just low quality booze, I guess. And so anyway, for the most part, I would stop drinking every time I would have be pregnant, or there was one time I was on some medicine. They said you can't drink on this medicine. I gave away all my stuff. I had frangelica. I had all of this stuff. I was making Russian Quaaludes. Because I don't drink at the bar because that costs too much. So I brought the bar home. I gave all that stuff away because I thought, I'm never drinking again. I have this problem. Turned out to be a Crohn's disease. And I'm never, you know what, that medicine timed out and I had to go right back to the ABC store and refill my bar. But so I thought, well, I've stopped before, right? I've stopped before. I'll just stop. It'll be okay. And, there is no due date. There is no end to the prescription. This is just stopping because I'm going to stop. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to not drink indefinitely because I love myself, because I don't. And so what am I going to do? And so my next miracle happened when I said, I feel like when I said, if there's no beer in the fridge when I get home, I'll stop. I feel like the loving God I didn't know or believe in took it as a prayer. The next move on my part was I said, I think I need help. Well, I assure you, I hadn't needed help since before I was 3 years old. I started making my own breakfast and opening and putting together my own Christmas presents from the time, I couldn't tie shoes. I was doing everything I could for myself because you're not going to say I need help. I'm not weak. I'm not a loser. Help is a 4-letter word. I don't need you. And so I said, I think I need help out loud, again, to nobody. And so we used to have, there's a few of you, my age group in here. Remember the phone book? Remember we had phone book. And you could look up, there was a front section that had people's names and addresses and phone numbers, and then there's a back section for all the businesses and stuff like that. And I don't know how I thought to look up Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I look up Alcoholics Anonymous, and in Wilmington, they have something. I don't know any of this stuff. I'm just garden variety nobody out there. And they have something called Intergroup, where some recovered alcoholic is on her day off manning a phone for a period of time and waiting for some ding-dong like me to call in. So I call, and I can't remember the telephone conversation. I think I need help. Who knows what I said to her, and who knows what she said to me. I'm sure she offered to have somebody come out to help me. And I'm sure I said, you can keep all your Baptists, alcoholics, and Jehovah's Witnesses to yourself. I don't need anybody coming to me. And she directed me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous at Topsail Presbyterian Church in Hampstead, North Carolina. And that was in February of 1998. It's not my sobriety date. And so I go into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. There is a dressy, casual, cute woman with a haircut and accessories. She's sitting at one of these conference tables at the end of that. And because remember I told you I know things, she's running things. She must be the president of AA. And all these other people sitting around that table, they're the board members. And I'm at their board meeting. And so I'm listening to them. They're talking about steps, and it's like they know all this stuff. And I'm sort of ticked off that they haven't given me a handout so I can sort of get up to speed real quick. I don't know what's going on, and they all do. And I think, well, they must not know why I came to their board meeting. So I'm going to tell them. So at my very first AA meeting, I stand up and tell everybody my whole sad story about how crappy my life was. And these 3 old women just start laughing at me. And I look at them, and she sees the look on my face, this one woman, and she says, "That's okay, honey. You're just telling our story." And I thought, what is this place? But they have free coffee, and they have cookies, and nobody there is mad at me. And they say, "Keep coming back. You're in the right place." And I think, how do they know that? I don't know that. And so the second meeting that I go to, I lie like a rug. I say, "My name's Mary. I'm an alcoholic." I don't know that. I just don't want to get kicked out of this nice place where they're friendly to me and they have cookies. And free coffee and cookies saved my life, honestly. This little old woman named Betty, she was like, 4 foot nothing. She looks like George Burns. She's got thick glasses and a cigarette sitting out of her mouth. And she says, "You need to pray for sobriety." And I said, "Betty, I don't believe in God." And she said, "I didn't ask you that." She said, "If you want what we have, you need to do what we did." And I thought, God, she's so mean. So I said, she was my first sponsor. I said, now I can't pray like she taught me to pray. So I pray my version of what she said. I said, "God, if you're real, if you're there, please keep me sober. God, if you're real, if you're there, thank you for keeping me sober. And that was the best I could do. And it worked. Like maybe a week or two in there, I went from praying that every 15 minutes to one day I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not flying off the planet. Like, this is working. And my home was, he was still a full-blown drinker and wanted me to go fetch his booze at the ABC store. And I've got these two little girls with me, and it was a little bit rough. They were good girls, and I didn't deserve them. They were sweet, good girls. But I just didn't, emotionally I had stopped. I had arrested development at about 13 years old. A 13-year-old girl is not a pretty sight. So I'm just wrapped up in self. Even though I'm in AA, I haven't usurped any principles. I haven't worked any steps yet, and I'm crazy. One night, I'm just in so much pain. I said, I can't just hope that you're real. Again, out there. I don't know why prayer would work, but I did it. I said, I can't just hope that you're real. I have to know. And the creator of the universe certainly doesn't owe me any explanations, but I was visited. I had an experience a tangible experience of God. And my prayer life took off. I couldn't believe somebody was in the room with me. I felt like it was God, as I don't understand him, that's fine with me, because I don't know Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob anyway. But whoever you are, I believed, had gotten me to Alcoholics Anonymous, whatever or whoever that was. And I just called him the God of my recovery. And we took off, this God and I. And I felt guilty going to the meetings and leaving my girls home alone at night. And my daughter was, like I said, they were 4 and 5 when I came in. And I said to her, alcohol makes me sick, and the meetings help me to feel better. And she said, do you mean vodka? I said, oh my God, what's been going on here? So before long, that marriage was not, we did fine as long as everybody was drinking. But when I stopped drinking, I was more trouble in my first 6 months of just not drinking and haven't got steps under my belt yet. I was more trouble. I was more of a liability to myself and anybody else. This thing was, my head was just my own worst enemy. So I ended up drinking up that marriage. I changed my sobriety date. My first sobriety date was when I had stopped drinking alcohol and came into AA. Like I said, I'm a dry drunk. I hate this. I need a break from me. I tried to get high a couple of times. Found out later on that's not sobriety. So I got to tell this boy who's like my kid's age when he came in, and he just kept going back out. I said, Justin, I said, it's hard to get sober when you're getting high. I mean, that's just my experience. So I don't try this stuff, the conscious contact with God and clean slate, all that stuff. I don't do that when I'm trying to get high. So anyway, my sobriety date is in July. I don't know when in June I took my last pill. And I started bringing these girls with me to the meeting that marriage is falling apart. And they've got sitting on all these uncles and granddaddies' laps, and they're feeding them chocolate chip cookies, and I want them, they're all sugared up, and we're like supposed to go to bed, a half hour after the meeting. Oh my gosh. But you know what? It saved our lives. It saved our lives. And so I ended up in my own little place, and And I was alone a lot. I had this black lab with me, Wilson. She was from the Wilson County Public Library, so that was her name. And she was a good buddy. She saved my life. I worked at the food line in Holly Ridge, and I would have to drive past Gilligan's on my way home. So if you ever lived on a barrier island, it's not like around here where there's a half a dozen or more different ways to get to your house. There's one way in and one way out. I had to pass Gilligan's, and I didn't think about going in and getting drunk when I was on my way home. I would think about, I'm just so lonely. I'm just so lonely. I just don't want to be alone. And I would think about, what if I stopped and tried to find, a date? But I what that would turn into. It would turn into, shame and remorse and drinking for me. I've got a track record that's proved that out. So I have to drive right past Gilligan's and let my dog out. And once I get to her, and once I get walking her on the beach, and God and I are out there on the beach with this dog, I don't need that guy, and I'm safe. And that dog saved my life. So she loved it. She was a black lab mix, and she looked like she'd been mixed with a greyhound. She had that big rib cage and a teeny tiny head and a teeny tiny waist and that little tail that whipped back. She was beautiful, and she loved to chase those birds out there, those little shorebirds. And I would do my version of a 10th step, which was, God, can you believe she said and he did? It was not about me. It was all about them. That was where I started, honest program. And so today I do a little bit better job. I hope I do. I think I know I do. So, it's progress. There's a long road ahead, but it's progress, right? Not perfection. So anyway, she gets out there and chases these birds while I talk to God. Well, I'm done. I'm ready to go. Call my dog, and she won't come. And, okay, but it's January. It's cold out here. Let's go. It's time. It's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Let's go. Or it's 4:30 and I've got to be at work. Let's go. And so she won't go. She knows she's going to get one of them birds. She's running up and down the beach. I know, and you know, that she will not catch one of those birds. And she just will not come. And it doesn't matter which way I call her, strong, stern voice, sweet, sing-songy voice. She can't hear me. She can't hear me. So I just have to wait. And in my prayer time, this one day that I'm referring to, in my prayer time, instead of talking about them, I pointed my finger at him, and I said, if you are a creator, why would you make me broken? Why would you do it? I've lost so much. Why would you make me alcoholic? And he didn't answer me. So the dog's not coming. I'm ready to go. This prayer stuff isn't working. And I just have to be out there and wait. And then for no apparent reason to me or you, at some point, she just turns and comes to me. And in that moment, he speaks right into my heart. He says, Mary, I have been calling and calling you, and you just weren't done. What do you say to that? And so little by little, different people and the God of my understanding have invited me into being responsible for my part in my life without guilt, shame, and remorse. I'm grateful for the women that I get to sponsor. I never thought that I would have anything to offer anybody in that respect, but it's been wonderful. And then that little girl has, she's had her own journey. And recently she asked me, can you get me a book? And I said, well, sure I can get you a book. And and we would talk about AA and recovery. I've never been anonymous. I'm anonymous at a public level, but I'm not anonymous in my life. I'm not anonymous when I go into a job interview or my doctor's office or meet my neighbor or anything. I'm not anonymous because I've got something wonderful. It saved my life. I don't have to wake up and do the things that I used to do. I don't have to leave the weekend early because I don't want you to know I'm a drunk driver. I'm free to go wherever I want to go now. So I got to share with her, and she's got her own sobriety date now. And that's really awesome. And then I've been able to take my place in a home group. I'll tell you what, for a long time, I was one of these people who, I'm married to Mr. AA, so it's kind of embarrassing to say this, but I was one of those who just kind of hung around the fringe at AA. And I took my home group commitments seriously, but if I wasn't on to chair that night, I'll usually be there, but I didn't work my work schedule around my AA home group. Why would I do that? And couldn't figure out why nobody stuck with me as a sponsor and stuff like that. But anyway, so I was one of those fringe people, and I was really with a little bit. I would call it a one legacy AA group. So does that make sense? We're here for us. If you come in through the door, if you somehow made it through that door, good. But we're here to stay sober tonight, and that's it. And done. And I sort of felt some responsibility there, longer than I maybe should have. Well, longer than I should have. And God moved me out of that town, and I joined Paige's home group. And boy, they do things a little bit different. So it's not just a 1 or 2 legacy, it's a 3 legacy home group. I had actually taken a commitment to going into a correctional facility. We used to have a women's facility in Rocky Mount, and I used to go in there, and I also used to carry women out. But I didn't have like a career about it. I just sort of tried things on. There's nothing wrong with trying things on in AA. There's also a lot to be said about sticking and staying with a commitment. And that's where I've really grown. When I made a commitment to my home group and to my service position in my home group and in my district, I do my district's web. I've done other things. I've done treasurer and stuff like that. But stick and stay, that's grown legs on this. When the book says we're like people have lost their legs, never going to grow new ones, I sort of take issue with that. I feel like AA has given me some legs. Like, have you ever seen those people running on prosthetic legs and how they're even faster than the people with real legs? And I mean, that's kind of what AA has done for me. It's given me a different pair of legs that's rocketed me off into the 4th dimension. And I don't believe it would have happened if I hadn't come into a group that taught commitment. I do have a sponsor. It's not my same sponsor. It's the woman that we sort of made our own halfway house at the beach. We would read the daily reflections and other AA material and stuff like that. She's the one that, she's a Christian. Well, I was allergic to all of that for a long time. And she invited me to go to her church. I said, well, I don't know about that. But I did go in. I found my place. It's a great story. It's a little bit of a long story. But I found my place there. And so at that church, when you get baptized, I told you I grew up with Presbyterian people, and they sprinkled the babies, right? they just sort of sprinkle something on him. It's like magic. You're in, and so I had when I went down, the man says, "Have you been baptized?" And I said, "Oh yeah, this is what I had." He said, "We don't do it like that." And so he starts negotiating the baptism with me. I said, "Man, whatever it takes. If you want me to run out into that ocean right now, I'm ready. Let's do it. Just bring it on. Just fix this." I just felt like, I needed the next. That's where my step 11 had drawn me to. I need the next level because this is rough. And he said, "No, we got to plan this thing out." So they invite the paper to come, the Topsail Voice, like a Gazette type thing, when you get baptized at that church. And they take your photo and put your picture in the paper that you got baptized. Well, my children's father, he's my ex-husband, at the time, we were just estranged and separate. He has told everybody in that town that I had a nervous breakdown and left them. I was super mad about that until doing some step work, I realized he was right. And so it's okay. But everybody kind of knew his side of the story about all of that in that town. So anyway, I'm walking my dog, Wilson, down the road at the beach, and this police officer pulls up, and I didn't have DUIs. I had a lot of yets when I came in, but I still get sort of hinky around the police. And this cop with his aviators on, right? The window comes down, he says, "I see you got baptized." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You're making some good decisions." I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Keep up the good work." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he just cruised on off. And I thought, well, that never happened before I came to AA. Like, I never got stopped by the cops for getting baptized before. So it's been a wild ride. It's been, I can't say that I've loved every part of it, but I love the life that I have in AA. Life happens in sobriety, but I don't have to run and hide in a closet. I don't have to pour a bottle full to make it to the bus stop anymore. I can go where I need to go and do what I need to do to be of service and to live happily and usefully whole. I loved the name of this group, New Freedom. A new freedom and a new happiness. And I feel like that's what I've received in AA. And thank you for my life.